All right, welcome everyone. My name is Charles Villeneuve and I am with LifeLoop, and I am extremely excited to welcome you to our first session of our third annual Validation World Congress. This is the third Validation World Congress, and this year we decided to focus on the creative arts for a purposeful living with cognitive change. One of the many reasons, and probably the fundamental reason, is that art is about expression. It's about connection. And as many of you know, Naomi Feil, the godmother of dementia, was one of the very first person to see that, to see, for example, how music, in the context of music therapy as a whole, could help connect with the person wherever that person may be. So validation helps us weave through empathy and other tools, creative arts in the everyday of ourselves and the people that we are honored to live with, sometimes that have cognitive change. So before we get started, I wanted to do two things. Vicky, I wanted to thank you for allowing me or helping me progress in the world of validation and help me and allow me to be on the board of VTI. And also wanted to ask you to go or join me in welcoming everyone.
Thank you so much, Charles, and thank you all for joining us on this third Validation World Congress. We are again delighted and proud to work side by side with you, Charles, with LifeLoop, with Activity Strong, and again with National Council of Dementia Minds. I'm thrilled. I can't wait, and I'll see you in an hour or so.
Thank you so much, Vicky. All right, so for us to get started for our first session, what I wanted to do is give you a little bit of background so we all know where we are basically. So Activity Strong was started in partnership with NAP, NCAP, and NCCAP with my company called Link Senior that was recently acquired by LifeLoop. And today, the Validation World Congress is done in partnership with the Validation Training Institute and, as Vicky said, the National Council of Dementia Mind. A little bit of background and administrative aspects before we get started is that we can earn up to 3 NAB, NCAP, NCTRC, and or NCCDPC credits today. To earn the credits, you need to attend a full session. So at least 1 or up to 3. And please fill in the survey by midnight on Sunday, February 2nd, so that we can process these. Please note that due to the high number of attendees, the certificates will be sent out via email throughout the following week, which is the week of March 3rd, and no later than March 7th. As always, if you have any questions, please send them by email to webinars with an S, webinars@lifeloop.com. As a reminder, this session is being recorded, so you'll be able to rewatch it if you want to, or share it with your friends and colleagues for future views. The chat and the Q&A features are enabled. As a gentle advice, if you're using the chat, make sure you select everyone so that everyone can see your valuable contribution. If you have questions for the panelists or the speakers, please make sure you direct them to the Q&A feature, as it makes it easier for us to loop them or surface them back up to the panelists. And probably one of my favorite advice here is just have fun, learn, and thank you very much for what you do every single day. So these are for the housekeeping reminders. Again, as background, my name is Charles de Villeneuve. I'm very excited to be the SVP of Resident Engagement for LifeLoop. I believe that all people are cool and that our industry is, quote unquote, activity strong. LifeLoop, just if you have never heard of LifeLoop, hopefully you've heard a little bit about it, our goal is to help senior living communities flourish. our platform is designed to enrich the resident experience, not only through evidence-based programming, but basically any type of tool that would help a staff provide purpose for the residents and the families that they interact with. We recently launched an AI-enhanced calendar management, which is so exciting because it not only helps everyone be creative and supports them with quality program, but saves hours, maybe sometimes hundreds of hours per year for each community. Today, we touch about 1 in 6 lives in communal settings, and we are on track with our amazing goal of touching 3 lives, 3 senior lives, 1 in 3 senior lives by 2027. So that's a little bit of background about LifeLoop and the work that we do. If you have any questions, please reach out. So on to our panel. So very excited to act as the moderator for our first session today, where we will be talking about meeting them where we all are, right? So we being people living with cognitive change, family members, care partners, team members, and enhancing dementia care through visual arts and validation. As a quick note, Phyllis unfortunately cannot join us, but I want, and I'm sure that everyone here would also do the same, I want to personally thank Phyllis for helping us in the preparation and almost making it today. With that, I'll ask Linda and then Amy and then Danny to introduce themselves. Linda, would you mind getting us started?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here from all over the place. And thank you, Charles, for inviting me. I'm Linda Brewster. I live in Wyoming, and I am living with dementia, but it's not, oh, I forgot the word. It's not known which one. Um, so I'll find out soon, I hope.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Elliott. I am the director of Opening Minds Through Art. Opening Minds Through Art is an intergenerational art making program for individuals living with dementia. Seeing is believing with OMA. So, Charles, I don't know if we want to show just so everyone can get an idea of what OMA art looks like. So, here are some uh, creative pieces developed by individuals living with dementia. You can see that it's abstract art, so we can talk a little bit more about that later. Beautiful layered art, and one of my favorite parts of the OMA process is the naming of the artwork. So as you're looking at these beautiful pieces, I'll just for a quick example, Night Chaos by George in the left-hand corner. George was a physicist, a very renowned physicist, had won many, many awards, but in his journey with dementia, he experienced insomnia. So Night Chaos is what he painted to express his feelings about insomnia through OMA art and able to express through creative energy what he was feeling and experiencing. And also part of the OMA process is the OMA art show. So when this was hanging on the wall, George stood proudly by it. And his wife told our founder, Lika Lokan, he's won so many awards, but I've never seen him as proud as he is of this artwork. So that's just a little bit about OMA, and looking forward to chatting more.
Thank you so much, Amy. Danny?
Good morning, and thank you, Charles, and good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm Danny Potts. I'm a neurologist from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm at the Tuscaloosa VA Medical Center, but I'm also affiliated with the University of Alabama and the UAB Heersink School of Medicine and the University of South Alabama College of Medicine. And I'm a caregiver, care partner. Both of my parents had Alzheimer's disease. And we have a foundation that was started in memory of my father, who died in 2007, called Cognitive Dynamics. And that foundation is a not-for-profit that brings the expressive arts to people living with dementia in various settings. And so it is in that sphere where I've learned so much and been so inspired by artists like we just heard about, who have shared their creative talents with us. And so it's a pleasure for me to be here. And by the way, it's quite an honor to be involved in this conference because of the impact that Naomi Feil and her work have had on me, my practice, and indeed my life. So I'm very grateful to be a part and thankful to all of the sponsors and collaborators.
Thank you so much. So I will stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other and have a wonderful conversation about an area that we all love. So maybe to get us started, a couple of thoughts is, Linda, I want to thank you for being with us. As I learned a few years ago, it's great to talk about different topics like dementia or cognitive change, but it only becomes relevant when we include people like you, right? There's this idea of nothing about us without us. And, you kindly ask if you should be nervous before in the prep. And I think we all are nervous, but you come from this unique place where, I can talk about it as much as I want. You are the true expert. You are the person living with cognitive change, and you are the one that is an artist. Thank you. So thank you very much for being here. And I'll probably repeat that at the end, but just know that that is a very important message for me and obviously everyone here.
Thank you.
So, sure, yeah. So the way we thought about structuring this conversation was going to be very simple. We thought about starting by laying out the key points, right? Talking about some of the challenges, and then going into towards solutions, right? It's kind of a three-pronged approach to that. And so when we think about arts and dementia care and probably some of the principles of validation, I'd love to lay it out here. Linda, Amy, or Danny, if you want to jump in and share your thoughts about that, and then, I can try to bring structure to the conversation.
Repeat the question.
What are the key points for you about visual arts? Like, let me ask you a question that I asked when we prepared, Linda. What do you love about the creative process?
For me, living with this, visual is everything, right? Because sometimes we don't make sense of the world when you give us words, because it takes us a long time to process it. So visual means everything. Like putting notes on the refrigerator, what I need to do, I can follow that. And it makes me feel a part that I'm still contributing. So for me, artwork is my happy place. So I can come in and I don't know if it'll show it, but maybe I could find a little bit of it. Nope, just a little bit. This
Just a
is
little
called
bit.
diamond art. So what it is it's a pre-done picture. This one is Mickey Mouse. And I have these little pins that I put in place wherever it says to put number 1. For me, it takes a long time because I'll go and I'll open the packet that says number 1, put it in my little dish, and then I'll have to go back and find number 1. Then I have to go back and pick up the pen, and then I forget where number 1 is on the paper. So for me, it's helping me do that repetitive work, which helps me living with dementia remember things, right? Because then, okay, this is a color that goes with number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So in doing that, it takes me a couple of months to finish it. And this one is for my son because when he was little, he watched Mickey Mouse Club. So one day he came out and goes, "I'm Mickey." So Mickey kind of stuck with him. So that one's for him. And then I do painting. I cannot draw to save my life. Stick people, got them down, right? I can do that. So I developed a happy wall. So I have these pre-drawn artworks, and I'm painting those. So they're mostly just flowers. So when I get overwhelmed, right, which is a lot, especially with all the changes that are happening and things that I can't explain. And I'm a psychologist. So I comprehend what's going on in my brain to some degree, right? But I'm living it. So therefore, I don't comprehend it, if that makes any sense. So I go and I look at my happy wall, and it has all my artwork and different things to help bring me down, help calm me. So for me, visual art is something I can literally touch. Like the painting, Amy, that you just showed. I have insomnia. So I totally get it. I can feel it. I can live it, right? So having dementia, that's what this art means to me, is it gives me something to feel normal. So I appreciate you bringing a spotlight to this, because that's one of the solutions for our caregivers, our care partners. We don't make sense a lot, but if you follow us, you can see what makes us happy, right? Bringing us back down, calming us. When we're calm and we're not stressed, we make a little bit more sense. So when we're high in our environment and we're stressed and the world's spinning around us, we have to have something to bring us down. And visual arts, for a lot of people that I know, that's it.
I love it so much, Linda. It's one of the things that validation teaches us is voice communication is not the only form of communication. Many of us talk about behavior expressions. It's one form of communication. And thank you so much for sharing that. Amy and Danny, I know you were smiling and nodding. Yeah, Amy, you want to go first and react to Linda's, yeah.
Linda, I have goosebumps. I feel like everything you said absolutely translates to what we see with OMA. And I should say I am an OMA volunteer, so I am regularly doing OMA art with an artist, and everything you said about the happy wall. When I go into a community, there's an OMA happy wall there with all of the art so that people can see their artworks, and everything that you spoke of, the opportunity for connection and creativity. And what OMA really embodies is choice, and how when we make those choices and we connect to that part of ourself where we are literally creatively expressing an idea, a thought, a feeling, some of them happy, some of them not so happy, but having that opportunity to creatively express it and to put it out on the page for everyone to see through that visual art medium is so important. It's when I'm with an artist, and I can't even tell you the choices in the colors, the thought that goes into every step and process. And then when it's finished and we step back and we look at it, and to see just the joy, like you're saying, Linda, the joy that comes from that opportunity to creatively express and connect, because they're connecting as a partner. They're connecting with me because I'm seeing, okay, this is what you're feeling today. This is what you're
Yes.
expressing today. And I can feel it. It's just a visceral expression of what they're doing and what they're feeling. And when we do the virtual art show and we look at, we just did a virtual art show where we had 488 submissions. And as a team, we're going through that artwork. And when I tell you, I was brought to tears so many times from the art. And then again, with how those artists were titling that work, because then we would see it. You'd be like, oh, of course. So it's so important to have that whole process where just the full loop of creativity and connection. And so everything you said, Linda, the happy wall is what I'm going to call it from now on. It will always be in honor of you, Linda. Almost happy wall.
Well, I couldn't agree more with what my two colleagues have said. And Linda, that's the real story. I feel like I can just comment on it. I mean, that is the story, because for me, what it's been mostly about is finding the human being again that may
Yes.
be
Yes.
having difficulty getting out. And so it started with what I witnessed with my father when he was going through his Alzheimer's disease and was having difficulty expressing himself and getting his personhood out for the world to see and know again. But someone, actually a volunteer, who was an artist, a retired artist, who himself had had a very, very tough time in life and had been given really a second chance, volunteered at an adult day program where my dad was attending and exposed Dad to watercolor art initially. And Dad had never painted before. And he went in a depressed person, and he came out joyful because someone had shown him back to him. And so the idea of showing me back to me has been so powerful in our work that we've done in Dad's memory. which is we have a program called Bringing Art to Life, and I'll get into more later, but it is also a program of expressive arts where students are partnered with people living with dementia, people like my dad, my mother. And it's about showing them back to them and letting them express and build relationships and find freedom to create and express themselves. So thank you for what you said. You said it much better than I could.
These are amazing, amazing thoughts and conversations so far. Really the essence connecting. And Danny, I love this idea that, bring the person back, right? Finding the person, making that connection. Let's get into, like what we see often as challenges, right? Like what prevents us from having all of these magical interactions every single time? As a cue, when I connected with Amy and you, Linda, we sometimes talked about the fact that, and it's personally how I reacted first, is you have people that say, well, I'm not creative. This is not for me. So take that or anything else, and please let's have a conversation on what we see, because we know, but sometimes people need to know more.
I think like the pictures that Amy was showing, that's a
Mm-hmm.
perfect example of people saying, I'm not creative, right? But if you look at abstract art, honestly, you don't need talent. You just need the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes that art, is you're putting your emotion in. So if I'm feeling blue, I'm going to use darker colors, right? If I'm feeling happy and hey, I'm here today, I'm going to use brighter colors. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's about, depicting your mood. So for me, my happy wall is all bright blue and yellows,
Mm-hmm.
pinks, because that's my happy wall. That's where I want to be every single day. In my past, I was always happy. It took a lot to bring me down. And I mean a lot. I would always find the happiness in something, whether it was a child playing ball or my son running around saying, I'm Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
That made me happy. So in putting art together, and I have pictures, Amy, that I've painted like some of your artwork. They're in the basement in a box because I was down on myself and said, oh, these are not good, which people with dementia do. We
Mm-hmm.
lose faith in our abilities to do anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what the chemicals in our brain and the rewiring of our brain is now showing us. But in doing this artwork, we get it back. Like you said, the gentleman, he was proud. That's what it's about. Like Danny said, bringing us back. That's a piece of us, right? My stepfather died of Alzheimer's, so my children got to experience it. And it was amazing because they would come over and they would laugh with him. My sons are huge, so they'd walk in and he'd look at them and goes, who are you? Like how big they were. And they'd be like, oh, Grandpa, you know who I am, you know? So that's memories. And that goes into the art, right? Because we can paint those memories like he did with the insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
That's his memory. That's his struggle. So I thank you so much for doing this. It's awesome.
Thank you, Nina. Amy or Danny, you want to react to this?
I mean, go ahead if you want.
Well, I will say once again, Linda, everything you're saying just resonates so much with what what the challenges we come across. And Charles, I think we call it art scars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's everybody. All
Yeah.
of us have those art scars when we were a child and somebody said it wasn't good enough or it wasn't what it should be. And
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
we back
Yeah.
off. And
Mhm.
so we call it art. And Alma, we are very aware of the art scars. And so getting past that bridge, Linda, that you have clearly crossed, understand, have just to once the experience happens, then the connection can happen and the beauty. But the challenge is getting that engagement and that meaningful engagement so that every individual can experience the life affirming beauty of creating that visual art and what it means for them in that moment. So that I think is probably our primary challenge now. And when we talk about solutions, we've found ways to kind of address that, but then also understanding exactly as you said, Linda, what's happening in each individual's, how they're cognitively viewing the art, how they're able to do it and express it in a way that gets to the full complexity and beauty of what they're trying to express, and designing. That's how we kind of design our OMA art projects in a way that we can try to get to that, so that the choice is built in. It's all the artist's choice. It's all the artist's vision, but that we're building it and creating it in a way that they can actually see that and again engage past the art scars for the life affirming moment.
It's great therapy. It really, really is. I tell everyone that I know, it doesn't matter if you do stick people, it's okay. Put hair on them. I mean, you should see some of my stick drawings. Um, but that's how I take pride in my work. That's how I know, okay, it's silly, it's goofy, but hey, I had fun putting these sticky spikes hair on them and, making them 4 fingers instead of 5. But yes, I totally agree. You need it.
Quick, Linda, I think we were able to showcase your piece of art with Mickey.
Okay.
Can I share it? Would you mind doing a voiceover with it? Okay, great. Just give me 1 second. Is that how does that work?
Yes, that's
Great.
my Mickey Mouse. So as you can see, they're each little diamond's literally.
Yeah.
So on the bottom that I didn't send in a picture, I kind of went creatively and put "I love you." And that I'm going to send to him or take to him when I go up and see him in Michigan. So it just means that connection, like you guys were saying, that's my connection to my son, right? Those are memories that I still thankfully have. So yeah, I don't want to cry.
Well, actually, Linda, one last question, and I'd love to move to Danny for his take a little bit here. One of the questions in the chat was, how do you help those that aren't physically able to do any arts, right? So you talked to us about focusing on emotions, but what if we're sometimes limited? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, I think that, for example, going back to my stepfather,
Yeah.
he was limited, especially towards the end. He was late diagnosed. Um, so he went down from 1 to 5. I mean, it was that quickly. We always tried, he loved Westerns. So what we tried to do was keep Westerns playing, talk about the Westerns, whether he could respond or not, because in the late stage, you lose your vocal. So, but he would still be able to smile, right? So we would talk to him about John Wayne, you know, hey, Grandpa, you like John Wayne? And he'd smile. So they still have their sight, they still have their hearing. Their mind is confused and a little lost in themselves. But those are ways that you can still stay engaged and still show them artwork. I was a preschool teacher, so I would get all kinds of artwork from my kids, right? I'd bring it home and, hey, Dad, look at what this little guy drew today. And he would smile so that you can still keep them engaged. You can still get their emotions, right? Because he's smiling. So a piece of him is still in there. So that would be my answer. If you can't draw, go to Amy's exhibit. There's art all around us in every city and every state.
Mhm. Thank you
And
so
now
much.
we have the internet.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you, Linda. Danny, do you want to react a little bit on again, the challenges?
Absolutely. Bold and emphasize everything that's been said. That's the first thing I want to do. It's just wonderful, beautiful. Certainly one of the things, and I think this would be true with any of us who are in a new setting, maybe a creative setting where we haven't been in one before, is to feel comfortable being vulnerable in the setting and to let our expressivity come out. And so one of the things that I think is important is to create a safe place that is characterized by compassion and empathy and listening, which certainly brings in some of those validation bullet points that we all like to talk about.
Mhm.
And in such a setting, I think people can feel more comfortable to express themselves and maybe to engage their creative side and that sort of thing. And so I think that the vulnerability piece is something that we have to sort of overcome, but it sort of organically happens. I've seen it happen, and I'm sure Amy and Linda could talk about it as well, because this is a very relational thing we're talking about. I mean, I think one of the most powerful parts of all of this is the relationships that are built, cemented, solidified, and created in the creative process. And so it's particularly powerful for me to see intergenerational relationships that are created, but it's also powerful to see peer relationships amongst people living with dementia, volunteers in various settings. So the relational piece then helps us create the safety for the vulnerability to come out and for someone to feel more comfortable and trusting so that they can then express themselves.
Love it. Thank you so much, Benny. When we met with Linda and Phyllis, this is one of the things that I love so much hearing from Phyllis is also, be reminded that the end goal is part of it, but the process itself is a huge part of the benefit. Just the fact of painting or doing and being in the moment. That was very important to Phyllis, to the point where she talked about the magical aspect of the artistic process. And she said how much it was for her healing and therapeutic, and just to be in that state. It had nothing to do about money or selling art. It was, again, being in the moment, getting back to what you were saying, Danny, like finding oneself. Sorry, I can talk for a long time. I shouldn't, because I'm on the moderator, but I just wanted to share Phyllis's standpoint as well here.
Well, I don't know if this is a good time to tag on to what you just said about finding the self and getting deeper in the present moment. Do you mind if I share Dad's art piece right now,
I would love us to do that.
Charles?
Yes.
So while we're pulling it up, my father was a rural Alabama sawmiller who grew up at the tail end of the Great Depression and was a very utilitarian soul who would have never sat down to create anything other than what he was already creating, building things, creating woodwork, etc. But when he attended Caring Days, he had already was struggling with aphasia, with getting his words out, with being able to communicate. And as I talked about already, he felt sort of a failure because he couldn't do the things that he used to do occupationally. And I think a lot of his identity was through his occupation. He was a very hard worker. But once he met George Parker, the art volunteer who was at Caring Days, who got him to open up in that trusting, validating environment we talked about, he began to be very freely expressive with watercolor. And watercolor was sort of his mode. And I want to highlight for you this painting. We had to help Dad name this one, Amy, but we kind of came up with helping him with this blue collage title. And I want to show you and actually tell you that this work of art has had a greater influence on me, my practice, my humanity, than any other piece of art I've ever viewed. Now, this was created by Dad when he was in late stage Alzheimer's and he could barely talk and had to have help with all of his activities of daily living. But on this small 9x14 canvas, you see images from Dad's early childhood. There is a high-topped shoe. There is a cross-cut saw coming out of the shoe and a cross with a hat on it in the center of the picture. Now, let me tell you, his father, I called him Big Daddy, was his sawing buddy. And he pulled a crosscut saw with my dad for many, many years. Big Daddy always wore high-top Brogan shoes. And he was a rich man of faith that always had a hat on. And so the image in the center of that painting, I believe, is an abstract of his father. Dad also loved trees. He built bird houses and gave them away during my whole lifetime. There's what looks like a birdhouse there, and then there are leaves and rocks. And by the way, this is in a blue-green, which Dad tended to gravitate to late in the course of his illness. So for what this says to me, this says, first of all, the human being is still inside with a rich life story, with the way he has characterized it in his mind and heart, and the loving relationships that grounded and rooted him, including the place that he grew up and the occupation, are still rooting and grounding him in the midst of his dementia. And he has laid it out on this canvas for us to see. And so late in the course of Dad's illness, when he stopped creating and he was having trouble even expressing himself with his own face, I saw the blue collage as Dad's face that he was putting out for us all to see, richly painted with his personhood. And so now I think about the blue collage when I'm interacting with people in my clinic who may be struggling getting their words out, or who may be dealing with whatever illness they're dealing with. And I think, there's a human being there, and that human being can get out, and I need to facilitate showing me back to me. So I thank Lester for having the courage to express that. I thank George Parker for showing him how to do it. And I thank the loving care partners that were there at the Caring Days, which was the Adult Day Center, who enabled Dad to express his life on canvas for us.
Thank you, Danny. Isn't that one of the best reminders that the person is always there, right? One of Naomi's greatest lessons for all of us is the person is always, always there. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for letting me share it.
Sure. Thank you for sharing. Amy or Linda, any thoughts about this? I want to give you the space if you want to, or we can move. Yeah.
In regard to human interaction and always being there, so appreciate those words and you taking it to heart, because I can tell you how many times that I have went someplace. It's not like I have a Band-Aid, right? I did not break my arm, so you can't see a bandage, and I don't have something saying dementia. So like I go into a coffee shop and I always order pretty much the same thing, but it was a bad brain day and I could not get it out. And the young lady was very rude and I ended up walking out crying, you know. And another time I was with my daughter and we went into like a hamburger place and we were getting ice cream because it was really hot. And the menu was very confusing to me. And the young man asked what I wanted, and I said, vanilla. And he goes, okay, vanilla what? And I go, vanilla. And he goes, what vanilla? And my daughter goes, Mom, what do you want on it? Had she not said that, this interaction probably would have lasted a little bit longer because I kept saying vanilla. But being there with them and having that human aspect is something that is very much missing in all of this. In caregivers, care partners, not of their own fault, just because they haven't been trained. They haven't been allowed to see the mess that's happening in our brain right now, right? That's the key part. We're still here. I can still walk you through, as a psychologist, what's happening in my brain. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to get those words out. But if I have that person who can take just that little bit of time to help me, then I can do it. But that human, it's as if they just don't understand it or they're afraid of it. I don't have the answer as to what the other person feels. But yeah, that human aspect of it just means everything, you know? And the younger generation that has not been going through this, they don't understand it. And it's scary, but think how scary it is for me.
Of course. Yeah. Linda, I thank you so much. Well, thank you for being vulnerable about, what you just shared here. I think, this goes back to a little bit, I think, to what Amy was sharing about the scars, right? And this is one of the many reasons I've always been a big fan of OMA as a program, which is that it's a program. It help us accomplish this. It help us build intergenerational program and just
Yes.
increase adoption. So just we have about 20 minutes left, and we have a very important piece to get to, which is solutions, right? How do we, again, OMA, other types of program, how do we help more people to get to this state? And so what I'd like to do is to use one of the questions we currently have in the Q&A, and Amy, I'll start with you. Do you find a specific medium to be most impactful in using expressive art therapy? So the person talks about more than just the visual. So please, feel free to take it on the way you want, but basically the medium that you find to be the most impactful.
Well, first, I just wanted to take a minute to say I saw, Danny, when you were talking, one of the chats came up was just wow. I think Michelle Bradford wrote that. I agree 100%. So many amazing comments coming up. And one of the joys of this work for me has been that every day I get to meet people with brilliant minds and beautiful hearts. And I already feel like this is embodying this today. In terms of those visual mediums, so I think it gets to what we've been talking about, what Danny and Linda have been talking about, this idea of finding self, personhood. One of the things I love about Alma, the thing that it recognizes first is that we are all individuals. We are all on our own journey. We come from different past experiences. We come from different strengths. So I think whatever feels like the strength-based medium for an individual is what they can connect with and should connect with. So I am not an artist. Linda, I totally related to you. I am I'm a researcher. So I am a stick person as well. So it's sort of interesting that I'm in this role as director of Opening Minds Through Art. Through the Opening Minds Through Art process, the way that Lika built it, that process was built that if someone wants to engage with this visual art medium, it gives them every opportunity. Again, the way it's layered to create, to make choices. Through those layers, you are creating something unique and individual just to who you are and your experiences and your past. And that can happen through any type of visual arts. It's part of it is the process. Linda, I think you were referring to that, the importance of the process, so that we design the process in a way that we are engaging through meaningful engagement, the individual of where they are, strength-based completely, that they are able to express themselves. And so it doesn't have to just be visual art. It can be others, but that we're constantly engaging and trying to find that thing that allows the person to engage, express, and be and connect. And it could be multiple things.
Thank you. Danny, do you want to jump in?
Oh, yes, I completely agree as well with what's been said. It's important to give people choice, make it strength-based. And one of the things that Dr. Ann Basting told me when I was on the phone with her as we were starting out our Bring It Art to Life program in 2010 was that you have to have all the expressive arts there. You have to have imagination, and you have to make it strength-based and person-centered. And so we do that. Of course, we've all seen music really, tap in and enhance. And in fact, it can enhance any of the other expressive arts as well if it's combined with, say, visual art. And we'll often do that. We have live musicians that come into our Bringing Art program, but we also have playlists that we can play if we feel like the mood is right for age-based appropriate music that we've sort of developed a playlist over the years that can play softly. Although one of our participants one day said, I can't hear what to paint because of all that music going on. So you have to be, flexible so that you can. So I went over and turned the music gently off. And so really what's been said already, but you have to give choice to folks, and it has to be strength-based.
Charles, I think a great solution too is what you guys are doing. You're bringing this out, right? You're inviting people. You have Amy and Danny here to talk about what they're doing. The only thing I would ask you is don't forget us in the rural areas. Had I not been with Dementia Minds, I wouldn't have known Charles. So in this rural area, other than Dr. Gee, there's not anybody out here to show us this, to tell us this, to be able to give us this outlet. So more people in the rural area are literally just walking around in themselves because they don't have this outlet. So please continue your work and don't forget us in the rural areas. We really need you and we really need that help.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, you know, we say we, I want to take a minute and thank you for everyone at Life Loops that allows us to have these, and especially both Emily and Brian that are on us with us today and collaborate a lot and make all of these events possible. Just continuing on this line of, you know, we know how great it could be. We did talk about some of the challenges, right? Like the lack of education and sometimes the fear. And then Linda, thank you very much for your nice comments about education. I'd like to get, if it's okay with us, very practical, right? So think about this. How many people we have online? We have about 675 professionals. So imagine that most of them are people working in senior living communities with residents that have cognitive change. And some of them maybe have done this before, some of them probably haven't. What would be your word of advice to get started and try to be successful like tomorrow, right? Like how would they start in doing that? Any word of advice there?
Give us some crayons and a coloring book or paper. It really is that simple. It really, really is that simple. Even
Yeah.
if I'm doing stick people, you're giving me a coloring book that's already laid out, right? Giving me those crayons, have a blast. My imagination is going to paint everything or color anything any way I want. There's no right or wrong. It's
So
that
just get
simple to
started.
start with.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the senior homes, I know when my dad was in assisted living and later hospice, they just, okay, here's your bed, here's your room. Had we not came, I went every single day, a 2-hour drive one way, just to get him outside, just to interact with him. If it's that simple. Here's colors, here's crayons, right? They're non-toxic. So if we eat them, you know, the most is we're going to have colorful after, you know what I mean? But it allows us to get out of our own head.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Love it. Danny, Amy, you wanna, yeah.
Amy, I'll follow you.
Well, I think first I'd just say I'm very humbled by probably everyone that's attending this today, and that they have all encountered the what do we do today. And so I'm humbled by everyone here. And I think what comes to play for me is just seeing the individual where they are today. See, where are you today? Just connecting, acknowledging, and like we're saying, offering choice, offering opportunities. What's missing so often is the opportunity to make a choice of how we want to express ourselves. And so having that at the ready, and again, totally humbled. I know that everybody on this call is doing this all the time, but that to me would be the best way to start. Seeing each individual where they are today, trying to, even in those are stressed environments, everyone's busy, there's a lot going on, but trying to have those options for choice and connection that are at the ready.
Real quick, if I may, when I was a preschool teacher, we would give the kids Play-Doh, right? Everybody remembers Play-Doh when you're in your preschool or kindergarten. Give us some of that. It really does not have to be anything, you know, you're stressing your brain about doing. To the arts, give us basics and let us grow from there with your help, your encouragement, like Danny, like Amy, like you. Great work. It doesn't matter if it makes sense to you. It makes sense to me.
Love it. Danny?
So one of the things that I love Susan Magzaman says with the International Arts and Minds Lab at Johns Hopkins is it to develop an aesthetic viewpoint about things. And so meaning, look for opportunities to find something to view, for beautiful things to look at, to inspire you to create, see the art in everyday life. It's all around us. And so I think if you're in a rural area, in a rural setting, around the home. For instance, I started taking photos after I was exposed to Dad's art, and also started writing poetry, as a matter of fact, inspired by Dad. So now I have this poetic viewpoint about stuff and photographic viewpoint. So I walk around the house taking photos in the morning before anybody gets up. My family thinks I'm nuts, but then I show them the photos, like, that's in the kitchen. Look how beautiful it is. Then we can have a conversation about that.
Yes.
So I think an aesthetic viewpoint will help people living in a rural area to suddenly see, oh my gosh, the rose is in full bloom. Let me take a photo of that. If Mom can't get out and see it, bring it in, blow it up, and look at it. Then we can paint it. Okay, so there's all those opportunities. Then, in larger settings, there are expressive arts therapists. So there are, university affiliated and not, art therapists, music therapists, dance therapists, bibliotherapists, drama therapists, etc., who are, you can find them on the internet, or you can search and find expressive arts therapists that I'm sure would love to and be willing to help facilities develop programs. We have programs like Opening Minds Through Art and Bringing Art to Life that are training students to do this, and we've even trained CNAs in settings, care settings. So I think there's a lot of different ways to do this, even if you're in a rural area.
Love it, Danny. One question came up, and we actually have heard this question before, I believe. And I'll just read it out loud. A major difficulty we face is matching ability with age. Many of my residents feel that the arts they are able to do will be deemed as quote unquote childish. How do we bridge this gap? Also, we sometimes have various abilities in one group. How do we work with that?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Linda.
Oh, no, go, Danny, go.
I was just going to say about the first thing. I think one of the things we can do is we can choose the appropriate kinds of supplies. And so we can make the setting dignified. We can make the art supplies dignified. And so that someone doesn't feel like maybe they're back in their childhood creating art. So I think that's one of the things that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I couldn't have said it better. It's, again, like Danny said, that human interaction, right? If I'm in assisted living and you've spent any time with me, you should know my abilities, right? You should know if, okay, she's a little leery of starting, let me go back to basics with crayons, right? And you're going to hear from me if this is childish for me. But it doesn't matter. Encourage me. Encourage it. Again, like I said, it doesn't matter if my coloring is all wonky. Oh, what nice colors you chose. Bring it back. You must be feeling good today. Why did you choose this color? That's the human interaction. That's the encouragement that's going to get me to go bigger.
And I would say specifically with Alma, Charles, one thing I've learned, and again, experiencing it, is the fidelity. It's the thoughtfulness, the intentionality of the process.
Yes.
It can lead to beautiful artwork, visual arts across varying levels of where individuals are in their journeys. And I've experienced it myself. I've been working with a partner that maybe is having a hard day, and just things like with Alma, we have our project sheet. We call it a connectivity triangle. We can engage over that. We can see what the next step is together. We can get to the choices together. And so it fits. And then what's created obviously through the abstract art are these very complex looking pieces, but are designed through the process in a way that each individual is creating something that is, again, very life affirming. It's complex, creative, beautiful art that everyone can do, and fits a variety of different, again, everyone's strengths.
Yeah. I love that Amy and Danny are literally in my brain, getting the words out better.
As we're unfortunately given time kind of wrapping up, I wanted to share a message that just came in. which is from Penelope. So it's written on behalf of Phyllis, who again could not join us, unfortunately. But she is sitting with us, watching us, and saying that the kind words about the perspective brought tears to her eyes, which makes Penelope happy, as does the arts. So thank you very much for this, for being with us. If anyone wants to drop in the chat a message for Phyllis and just encourage her and give her strength, we also wanted to share with her because, well,
Yes.
with all of you, sorry, because Penelope suggested that we share also her website. This is her website, so please check it out. It is at phylliscole.com. And again, any words of encouragement you want to drop in the chat for Phyllis. Phyllis is with us, but unfortunately could not participate in this panel. So again, words of encouragement. Thank you so much. Now,
If I
let's
may, real quick, Charles, about
yeah,
Phyllis.
yeah.
Phyllis's mom was an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Phyllis actually lives in a little community in Florida, and she has a little group of friends that she actually encourages this work. They come to her house and she teaches them how to paint. Phyllis, you should see her art room. It is massive, and every color and everything you can imagine is in there. And she always says, but she doesn't know how to draw, right? But if you look at these, it's like, really? No, these are beautiful. And you should, she has this peacock behind her when she's on in our group. This peacock has every bright color known to man in it. It's just so gorgeous. Phyllis, she's one of my heroes in this. I mean, she just does amazing work.
Phyllis, when you get better, I'm coming over because I got to see this art. It is gorgeous. Thank you
You
for
do.
sharing it.
Great. Any last thoughts, one sentence or two before we wrap up this wonderful session?
Keep doing what you're doing. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you, Linda. Amy, Danny?
I just am grateful that I learn every day from everyone that is doing this amazing work, and it's helped me evolve as a person. We are lucky that we get to connect with this and learn from this. It is enriching our lives.
It's an honor to be among all of you. I appreciate the opportunity to make new friends. And I will say, let's show each other back to ourselves through creativity and art.
Love that. Really love it. Yeah, art is one of the wonderful tools like validation that helps us be a better human beings. So thank you so much for, bringing all of these perspectives, especially you, Linda, from your own very unique perspective, but also helping us understand challenges and the solutions and all of that. Thank you so much.
My
We
pleasure.
deeply, deeply appreciate it. As we wrap up the first session of our third annual Validation World Congress, wanted to share a little bit with you a few announcements, which is, as we will be wrapping up the third session at 4 p.m. Eastern, we have our wonderful Brian Reif, who's going to be hosting a happy hour in partnership with Vicky and Brenda. So please stick around if you can. They're always tons of fun, different types of learning interaction. So please feel free to stick around. And then just for upcoming events, some of you that are very familiar with Activity Strong might remember that we had these wonderful opportunities called Hearing from Resident Engagement Champion. Now with our partnership with LifeLoop, we're so excited. I'm so excited that we continue to bring these in the format of Flourishing Communities by LifeLoop. And our first one is going to be on March 11th with my dear friend Jenny Kinsey, who's the Vice President of Social Wellness and Enrichment, and Kristen Flynn, who's a Social and Enrichment Director. And it's going to be all about delivering personalized engagement across an organization, really hearing from people that are doing it, best practices and lessons, and again, a wonderful conversation. So that's going to be on March 11th. And then the following webinar that we will be hosting will be on March 25th. With somebody who just has a wonderful, unique, just amazing background. Her name is Anna Hall, and she's currently the Chief Culture and Community Officer for Front Porch, a wonderful organization on the West Coast. And Anna is going to be helping, or is going to talk to us about purpose as a lifelong anchor, adapting and thriving through changes. So this wraps up our first session. Again, deep, heartfelt thank you to Linda, Amy, and Danny, and virtually, or double virtually, I would say, Phyllis, for helping us with this amazing session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.